Let's transition and talk a little bit more about people. Times have changed. Pandemic taught us to work remotely. The market has changed. So the great resignation is upon us.
Yes.
What do you think about people within startups?
I think it applies to startups, but I think it applies to organizations of all sizes and levels of maturity that, a few things. The labor market, I think it's an employee market these days, opposed to an employer market. Even at the interview stage, you're getting employees, prospective employees, asking the tough questions. It's like they're interviewing the company, where traditionally, old school, it was the company who had the power and they were interviewing the prospective employee. That's shifted. Companies are a lot more comfortable with people working remotely or working from home. So that, I think, is going to produce an interesting dynamic in the culture, but also in how you compete for talent, because you could be a Canadian company, startup or mature, and now you are potentially competing with companies in Europe, United States, whatever, for talent, because as a software programmer, as an example, they could work from home in Toronto and be working for a company in California, Asia, or Europe. So now you're competing globally, and that's going to be very, very challenging for employers. So you need to focus on employee engagement, being able to retain and engage employees, and I think that's going to become increasingly difficult.
If there is a thing that we have learned during the pandemic, that you can work from anywhere. The only thing that most of our clients are struggling with is maintaining that sense of intimacy and protecting the culture, right?
Yeah, I think there's been a few waves of this, even long before the pandemic. Companies, to save, I think it was driven by saving money on real estate, started to do, hoteling cubicles where you could work from home for a few days a week. You book your cube in your locker and you come to the office and that sort of thing. I think it was mostly for real estate savings purposes. And then the pandemic obviously hit and it really started to to have people working from home and working remotely, and not even in the office at all, never mind, coming just a few times a week. And I think, organizations thought that was going to work well. It was going to be, cost savings for employees, cost savings potentially for the company. And now you're seeing a lot of big companies, recalling employees. In some cases, they're recalling them, quote unquote, mandatory, which is not going over very well. If you need to be in the office 5 days a week, that's not going over, very well, especially with younger employees. But I think organizations feel, rightly so, that we lost something because people were working from home. You lost those informal conversations as you passed each other in the hallway or at the water cooler and that sort of thing, and that sort of cross-silo collaboration and that sort of thing disappeared. And a lot of people go to work for the social aspect of work. They've got friends there, they may have worked for many, many years, so that disappeared as well. So, it's an interesting dynamic, and I think, people are realizing that there's definite benefit to the employee as well as to the company for people coming back. They just need to manage it, that maybe it's not 5 days a week or whatever, but that collaboration and informal conversation is really important.
You being on the side of a large organization and a startup and working with the future entrepreneurs in Canada, there is a dreamer, there's a young person who has the idea. Yeah. What will you tell them?
Yeah, I guess the cliche answer is, pursue your dreams, which is, great, but you gotta. I'm an engineer, so I've got a little bit of a practicality in my brain when I look at things. But I would say three things. I would say start small, think big, and scale quickly. So start small, and obviously, for a variety of reasons, you're gonna have to start small because you don't have a lot of resources, you don't have a lot of money necessarily, but you also need to be very focused. It's difficult to say no to a lot of opportunities. You want to say yes to everything, but chase 10 rabbits, you catch none. You need to focus. So stay small in the beginning because of your resources, and really focus on what your competitive offering is and these sort of things. And then think big. So obviously you want to have your eye on what the company could become, hopefully will become, and what your vision is, and you need to build a foundation today for what the organization is going to be like in the future. Obviously, if you look at a mountain, the larger the base, the taller the peak. So you need to build a strong foundation today, even though you might be small, knowing that a few years from now, you hopefully will be large. Because if you don't build the foundation, it takes time. If you don't build the foundation now, you're not going to be able to scale. And then the last one is obviously, you know, scaling as quickly as you can. Because when you scale, you get synergies and cost savings and efficiencies, and you can compete better and that sort of thing. So those are the three things I would recommend for somebody who's looking at a startup.
Thank you. It's been a very, very interesting conversation.
My
Thank you
pleasure.
so much, Mike.
Thank you.